Welcome to Invercargill in New Zealand's deep south, home to Cycling Southland and the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. Now in its 63rd year, the SBS Bank Tour is one of the country's longest running sporting events and the most prestigious title in New Zealand cycling. The list of past winners is a who's who of New Zealand road racing, and it remains the toughest test of the Kiwi calendar. 108 riders, 18 teams, 7 days, 860 kilometres and only one winner. Last year's tour started with Powernet claiming first blood, winning the opening prologue and earning Alex Heaney the first yellow jersey of 2018. The tour proper began with the opening road stage to Lumsden, where local hero Matt Zenovich powered his way to the tour lead and a hugely popular sprint finish victory. The tour bared its teeth on stage 2 to Te Anau, with Morgan Smith claiming the win and Zenovich defending his overall lead. But as with previous tours, the Queen stage to the top of Coronet proved decisive. Canterbury's Michael Vink grabbing the race by the scruff of the neck to grab a 1 minute 20 lead on the chasing bunch, with defending champion James Piccoli crashing heavily early in the climb. But the Canadian would not go away meekly, bouncing back to claim his second consecutive stage win atop Bluff Hill. The peloton then threw everything they could at Vink on Friday's penultimate day, but he matched every move, with Piccoli getting away late to solo to another stage win. Olympic rowing legend Hamish Bond threw the final day into chaos, dominating the individual time trial to cut Vink's lead to just 18 seconds, heading into the final stage to Invercargill. But after 9 attempts and runner-up finishes, Vink would not be denied, getting the job done over a frantic final journey into the city and claiming a maiden SBS Bank Tour victory. 2019's edition looms as one of the most even fields in recent history. A strong international field this year features riders from as far afield as Switzerland, the Netherlands, United States, Mexico and the traditional Australian contingent. But the marked man will be the defending champ with number 1 on his back, Michael Vink.
Probably one of the better groups I've ever had, to be honest. I mean, Dylan Kennett for the sprint, Ethan Batt, who could win in his own right, James Harvey, who's incredibly strong, and a couple of locals, and Josh and Hamish. So it's probably the dream team, really.
So I've heard a lot from my teammates who've done it in previous years, and can't wait. It's been on calendar all year, and really looking forward to get started. Everyone thinks it's a hard man race, so yeah, it's going to be good.
I just heard 2 things. One, there's always crosswinds and it's always raining and cold. And the other thing I've heard is that the Bluff Hill is extremely steep. That's the 2 things I know.
We'll get out the road. We've got some guys with good ambitions in the stages. It's going to be a really good week out. Just watch out for the pink. You'll be in trouble.
Even with the big names on the start line, 2019 is highlighted by one name. Tour director Bruce Ross, who brings up a 50-year association with the event in this his final year as tour director.
Hello guys, please. Right, well firstly a warm welcome to Invercargill and to the 2019 SBS Bank Tour of Southland cycle race.
Well, I was always keen on cycling right back from the start, and a friend of mine, the late Bunty Hewitt, coaxed me into coming on the tour one year back in 1970, where I was a judge, held a judging role. And then I did several tasks throughout the next few years, including chief judge, and then 1984 and 85, Graham Sycamore, the previous tour director, he was selected as the manager of the New Zealand cycling team to the LA Olympics. So I got the role. I didn't really need the role, I didn't really want the role, but they picked on the wee guy, and here I was. So I thought it was just only for a 1-year term, but Graham came back, he didn't want the job back again, so 35 years later, here I am, standing here talking to you. My wife Pam was very supportive, and when the kids came along, I think as soon as they could sit up, they were putting numbers in bags and goodness knows what to help, and they've still remained part of the tour for a long time. They've been a huge help, and I could not have done it without them. And so I think they thought that the only time they're going to see Dad is probably join in and be part of it.
Yeah, good to see you everybody. No problem, good to see you. Thanks for coming on board. Yeah.
Overall there's 100 volunteers helping out. They give up a week of their personal time to help out, and we're very thankful that they do, because it's a strong volunteer base that we have, and we're very fortunate, the event's very fortunate to have that base. Long may it continue.
As is tradition, the 2019 SBS Bank Tour opened with the team's time trial prologue in central Invercargill. Perfect conditions and scorching temperatures greeted the riders for the 4.2 kilometre blast around Queen's Park. The 18 teams departed the start line at 2-minute intervals, with the HR Building team earning the honour of the Tour's first pedal strokes. Base Solutions racing team, featuring New Zealand track cyclists Jordan Kirby and Campbell Stewart, set the early pace with a time of 4 minutes 49, which would ultimately be enough for second overall. Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel were the penultimate team away and finished just 2 seconds shy of Base Solutions to claim third. But it was Placemakers, featuring defending champion Michael Vink, that put the rest of the peloton on early notice, stopping the clock at 4 minutes 46 to put James Harvey into the yellow jersey for Monday's opening road stage to Lumsden.
Pretty awesome night last night to go home and be wearing the leader's jersey, and I think I've probably spent the most time on my phone just replying to messages all night than I have in a long time, so it was pretty special, and it's a really cool thing to be wearing that on stage 1 today.
Hopefully the weather's like a bit windy. Yeah, I reckon that if it's like this all week, then I don't reckon it will be too suited to us.
Today is beautiful. It's a first day. It's like we have a leader from yesterday, but time gaps are so close. So I think it's an open race. Like a lot of teams want breakaways, other teams want sprints. So it's an interesting day. It will be hard, so we need to be all day in the front and be hurt.
Today it's pretty nice conditions here. So I think no wind is going to be a factor, so it might stay together to the end, and if there's a bit of wind later on about the 120k mark, we might see some fireworks. So I think it's a good run-in for me, and coming out of that corner, just have to be up the front and give it death.
So some outstanding conditions here, greeting the riders for the first day here, the first official road stage, and of course the last tour for that man in shot there, the tour director Bruce Ross, and a few of the riders getting out there, Doug, with the Bruce's ambassador banner on for them today, and of course the masks as well in support of the man that's been involved in the tour for some 50 years.
An incredible reign, Bruce, and he's done such an amazing job with this tour, and we will miss him next year, I am sure. The sunlight streaming onto these bike riders today will be so welcomed. They hear so many stories about the weather. Don't worry, it's still to come. See the yellow jersey wearer here looking very, very relaxed in the peloton. Lots of sunscreen on today, and the conditions are perfect for bike racing.
Yeah, James Harvey, the first-time man in the yellow jersey. Oh, we've got an extra competitor getting involved in there, I think in support of our Mexican rider in this year's tour. Of course, 6 nations, Doug, involved in this year's tour. Mexico, the Netherlands, we've got Switzerland, Australia once again, of course, and a great crop from Australia and, of course, United States of America.
Great to see all these countries coming to compete. This race is world famous now, Julian, and you can see here the rider who's going to win this Prem, number 102, Paul Wright from the Central Benchmakers Will Bike team. Travis Kane from the Business South team was right up there as well, just in shot, but it's the young rider from the Wanaka, Paul Wright. He's going to win this Prem quite easily coming out of the start of the stage. Long way to go yet though.
Yeah, loads of these sprints available, of course, in the Tour of Southland. The Harcourt Sprint Ace jersey up for grabs. They try and pick up a few dollars and a number of the sprints. As we look to the back of the peloton, and Dylan Kennett, New Zealand representative, comes off some fine form from a win in the Tour of Asia just recently here. So he's in support, of course, of Michael Vink.
There's a lot of posturing goes on at the start of these stages. We see this every year in the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. There's attack after attack. It's really a matter of the right combinations. A lot of the seasoned professionals will sit back at this stage of the tour and just let it all roll down the road. You can see there before Dylan Kennett, he's a very, very experienced bike racer. But once again, this race, you can't afford to let things go. Every stage can be a GC stage, as Michael Vink said before this year's race. And once again, here we are, the Business South team. No, really coming into this meaning business this year.
Yeah, Felix Donnelly, there goes Tom Sexton, a man part of the Team Pursuit squad. And of course, in amongst it there was James Fouché in the black and white colours, the New Zealand road champion. And it looks like, Doug, he's taken out the sprint, so making his intentions clear here early on day 1. So a lot of new colours this year, Doug. 18 teams, 108 riders, and a lot of new sponsors on board. And we can see a few of them here with the likes of SIS Santini and the orange colours, and Skoda, of course. They've been here a number of times with young Bailey O'Donnell from Canterbury on the front.
Yeah, it's always great to see the new teams and the new sponsors coming on board in the SBS Bank Tour Southland. Bike racing is such a dynamic sport, and each of these riders get put into these teams often at the last minute. You can see at the front of the peloton here, there's a bit of a split emerging, and this will be alarm bells for a lot of the guys on a day like today, which could be a stage where a big pack like this gets away at the start and takes quite a lot of time early on.
Yes, it'll be very interesting to see how things unfold today with the types of conditions. Will they let a few of these guys go up the road, try and pick up a few of the sprints, a few of the hill climbs, and then pick up the pace? When we hit around about the 100k mark, typically in these sorts of distances, that's when we see the big hitters. And it is the Placemakers team with Michael Vink, the defending champion, on the front. He's got Kennett in behind him, Ethan Batt, of course, there in the pink jersey, part of the Placemakers team, and of course they've got their yellow jersey holder after taking out the team time trial yesterday.
Yeah, it's starting to disintegrate here a wee bit, Julian. You can see the ups and downs coming out of Thornbury after a few of those intermediate preems that softened some of the riders up. And you can see that the front of the group here is just a wee bit more disorganised than it was, with the peloton just breathing down their neck, starting to regroup.
Yes, not allowing anyone to get any sort of decent distance here, but eventually the rubber band has to snap. The wind slowly but surely starting to pick up as they edge their way out of town. They're about 30 to 40k out the road now, and it's starting to hit across the road on some of these guys, and a bit of hesitation there amongst the leading group.
Yeah, the cat and mouse of who's going to chase, who's not, who's going to go away. The countryside, of course, is such that it allows some of these riders to get away. There's a bit of a crosswind often comes through some of these hedgerows in Southland, and it opens up a bit of conditions. You can see them spread out all over the road as they're trying to fight for that breeze and shelter behind the wheel.
So we have two guys here now starting to disappear off the front a little bit. So they're pretty excited by the fact that's Fuller of Otago, a former triathlete now involved here, and he's with the American Hausler, who's part of one of the new teams here, Support Clean Sport Team.
And things are certainly packing up here in the peloton. They've just shut the gate and said, hey, look, let's just have a bit of a cruise for a while. Often this occurs, they have a bit more of a feed, a zone. Some of the riders often stop and even go to the toilet, Julian, while moments like this go away. But these two guys here are probably going to end up with quite a handy lead.
Yes, these two here will take full advantage of the fact that they are aware the peloton have allowed them to go off the front a little bit here and are starting to sit up. So they'll settle into it and work as a team unit. Speaking of teams, it is the Placemakers team, the team with the yellow jersey as part of protocol. They have been put onto the front, but a pretty relaxed looking style here as they watch those two disappear up the road.
She's a lonely old time out at the front of this year's SBS Bank Tour for these two. There's not a bunch in sight. They're coming over the ups and downs after the Rackles Hill climb, and the conditions will be starting to get a wee bit breezier as you head out towards the coast a bit more. And interestingly, Julian, the Placemakers team once again with the yellow jersey tucked in the on third wheeler, just controlling this year's race quite nicely.
Yes, it's local man Hamish Keese that's been put onto the front here for his team. That's what he's here for, along with Josh Haggerty, a former silver medalist in the Junior Real Track Championships. They're here this week to work hard for their team. They're putting the effort in. They've already been noted that it's over 4.5 minutes now to these two men out in front. So they won't allow that to get much further afield because they want to try and keep things under control and try and bring it home at the finish of the stage.
Yeah, it's a tough job for these young guys in these teams that are just there as support riders. But hey, Julian, that's cycling. That's how it works. You have worker bees in these teams that are sat on the front. Great support here from the schools out in NIGHTCAPS. Those front two riders are really relishing this ride they're having out in the front of this race.
Yeah, they're loving their time together. Oh, as we say that though, here we go with 70k to go, and it looks like one of our riders there, the man from Otago, has decided it's all over for him, and it's the man from the United States, Hausler, who has set sail now to try and get his bid for victory. They've picked up a lot of points, these two guys here, and we'll no doubt see them in some jerseys towards the end of the day, picking up a number of the sprint points as well as the King of the Mountains.
He'll be just wanting to roll along. You can see now back at the front of the race, this is starting to really get to crunch time. One of the other squads is coming up now, the PowerNet team. That's the Paul Odlin, captain of the squad there, starting to roll through. But Placemakers have really drilled this. You can see some hurt going on further back in that bunch.
Yeah, watching those trees blowing from right to left there. They're keeping them in the gutter, making life very difficult here. This will start to disintegrate the field here. As you can see, the peloton is shrinking. Remember, we started with 108 riders here as they chase down the last lone rider out in front. Hausler stretching the legs, and why not? It's been a big day out there for the big tall figure from the United States. He's going to come back into the fold. Now the racing really begins.
And one of the conditions of this race, of course, is the wind, but today's been extremely hot. We've seen the riders hydrating an awful lot there further back earlier in the race, knowing that they probably may not get as many opportunities. But for the first time in this stage, here are the Kia Motors squad. We often see them blow this stage apart in previous editions of this race, but here they are at the front now too. They're really, really making sure they're protecting themselves in this huge crosswind section.
Yes, and we can make back in the background there's at least two other bunches further on back. They have really split things. This looks like a serious move here for victory on the stage. And of course, with the times being so tight after the team time trial yesterday, everyone is well aware that the yellow jersey is very much up for grabs here in this first official road stage of the tour.
Yeah, one of the first shots we've seen of this year's Southlander, Corbin Strong. He's a really dynamic lad and has ridden all over the world this year. But it's Vink also coming through on his wheel, who's looking so strong. Last year's winner. He's a seasoned veteran of this race, and he's coming here to win it again.
And amongst the mix there too was Jensen Plowright there, one of the riders from Australia, and a big contingent of them. He's joining that Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel team. He's been here before, so he knows what it's all about as well. As we see more hits off the front, and it looks like the likes of Strong going off the front here, and he's taking a few riders with him. One of the Kia riders, PowerNet in the mix there as well, as another rider trying to get across the gap here as they head towards Dipton.
He is such a dynamic rider. He's a track racing exponent as well. He just performed exceptionally well at the Oceania Games Championships just recently here at the SIT Velodrome. Corbin Strong is destined for the big leagues, this kid. He's got a good head on him, but he is really, really going to have to make sure he's got some gas in the tank for later on in the stage if he's going to try and do it from this stage.
Interesting to note, Dylan Kennett from the Placemakers team, he's got himself onto the back of this leading quartet here, because he's a man that would have been marked down in the books by many as a possible stage winner here today. As we said, just come off some fine form racing in Asia for his St George team, along with the likes of Michael Vink, so we know he's got a good kick on him at the best of times.
Yeah, that's Alex Heaney from Cambridge and the PowerNet team coming through. This is the Dipton school coming through here, West Dipton. It's a lonely old time as they go through after having all the kids screaming at them. But these guys will be wanting to coordinate things. There's not a lot of cohesion at the moment. There's one of the Placemakers riders sitting on that group. He's not going to contribute, so it'll be interesting to see whether they can stay away.
Yes, it's requiring a bit of organisation back in the chasing peloton here, or what's left of them here. Looks like about 15 to 20 odd riders still trying to get across the gap. So it looks like we've come back together here, this leading group, as they head into the last few kilometres towards Lumsden here. And a lot of thought will be going into it amongst some of these individuals, and of course the teams that have got multiple riders, Doug, who they're going to lead into the finish.
We are going to start to see who is who in these teams. You can see there number 5. I've been watching him, James Harvey, the yellow jersey wearer from the Placemaker squad. He's been caught back a bit in these crosswind stages, and he will be having a pretty tense time back in these at this point in the race. But it'll be interesting to see who's going to be used as the lead out guys, as you said, and who's in there for the stage win.
Well, as we said before, Kennett would certainly have to be one of the favourites in here, but also in amongst it there is the Coupland Bakeries team rider, Nick Kirkazoo, another one of these track riders. He won the 1,000 metre time trial at the recent Oceania Championships. We know he's got a good kick on him at the end of the stage, but they've allowed now one of the PowerNet men to get himself off the front, Alex Heaney. Now, he's been in yellow before. This guy knows what it's all about when it comes to this tour.
A huge big tailwind, and that's a big descent into Lumsden, into the stage finish. You do a big right-hander here, and it's very, very fast. Of course, you get to Lumsden and have to do that big circuit back through. So Alex Heaney's still got a lot of work ahead of him yet.
Yes, they're putting the pressure on the team in the red, the Kia team, because they've got the multiple numbers, so a lot of the other teams looking at them to say, well, hey, you guys have got the numbers here, you do the chasing. Heaney's going to try and take advantage of that, hoping that the bit of the hesitation could allow him to stay off the front. He's a very strong sort of a rider. We've seen him in the past here in the tour. We know he is capable of holding off a field at this pace.
He hasn't looked over his shoulder yet either. Alex Heaney from the Powernet team is really giving everything here and committed to staying away. But the peloton behind, the chasing group, are starting to get a wee bit more organised. You can see some of those Kia riders' jerseys at the front of this group. They'll be hoping that one of their riders can maybe get into a position into the sprint. So Alex Heaney is in no man's land, a dangerous place to be.
Yes, the group continue to roll it through, and they're just hovering them out there. It's dangerous times and at there, whether or not they can shut that down as they all start to look at each other, hoping that someone will be able to commit to try and shut that down, because it's a long straight into this finish here. As he starts to approach 1,000 metres remaining, Doug, he's still got a reasonable gap here as we approach the back streets here of Lumsden.
He'll be really hoping his cornering is going to see him good. There's a big right-hand corner coming into the main straight, and Alex Heaney is absolutely having to give 100% effort here. He's not looked over his shoulder, he's committed, he hasn't given in yet, but the chasing peloton with those Kia Motors riders, the Ascot Park boys at the front of this, they are seriously putting on some organised chasing.
I picked up the colours going through that corner there. Also was a Campbell Stewart from the Base Solutions Racing team. Of course, he's the World Omnium champion, another man just off the track racing recently at the Oceania Championships. He'll have a strong finish here as they make their way round into the last 6 or so hundred metres, and now we see the team in the red lead their team leaders into the finish.
That's the Kia Motors Ascot Park team who've been waiting for this the whole stage. They usually decimate this stage, these boys. Oh, and there's a rider down. That's really unfortunate. But here we are coming into the finish now, and it's going to be one of the Kia Motors boys who's going to take this stage.
Plowright goes across the line. He'll take it out there. Looks like Campbell Stewart right up into the mix and along with Kirkazoo. But Plowright, the man from Australia, representing the Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel team, too strong in the finish for his team. And Case Diverston, unfortunately, is the man who takes the fall there into the last few hundred metres. Plowright takes out the stage and, more importantly, places himself into the yellow jersey by a mere 2 seconds from World Omnium champion Campbell Stewart, while defending champion Michael Vink sits at 5 seconds in third place. Brendan Hausler from the United States of America secures 14 points after a big break of the day here to move himself into the Harcourt Sprint Ace. While his mate on the road, Iona Fuller of Dunedin, secures 18 points to move into the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. Jensen Plowright adds another jersey to his collection here on the first official road stage of the tour by a mere 2 seconds in the Henderson Construction under 23 category. A familiar figure in Paul Odlin in the Stonewood Homes silver jersey by 1 minute over Glenn Hayden. While Brendan Hausler is rewarded the SBS Most Combative Rider of the Day after a big break for the majority of the stage. Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel continued to celebrate, taking over the Wednesday Cycles team classification by 3 seconds over PowerNet and Placemakers at 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's good to get the pink jersey, but also the yellow jersey is really exciting. I'm quite large, so I don't have a problem with the crosswinds. So I was trying to help out the smaller boys as much as I could, and then they really finished it off in the finish for me.
Follow the action from this historic race with live race updates, full results and pictures at www.tourofsouthland.com.